Staff Sergeant Ryan Torres had 3 weeks before deployment. 3 weeks to get his entire life in order before heading overseas for 14 months. He sat at his kitchen table, looking at the stack of bills and documents in front of him, trying not to think about how long 14 months actually was. His house wasn't much, but it was his. A small 3-bedroom place in a quiet North Carolina neighborhood with an HOA that mostly left people alone. He'd bought it 3 years ago with his VA loan, and it was the first place that ever truly felt like home. The mortgage was affordable, the neighbors were decent, and he'd actually managed to make it look nice inside. But now he had to leave it all behind. Ryan had already set up automatic payments for everything. Mortgage, utilities, HOA fees, insurance. Everything would keep running smoothly while he was gone. At least that was the plan. He'd learned in the Army that plans didn't mean much unless you covered every possible angle. That's why he scheduled a meeting with Barbara Westfield, the HOA president. She was a retired real estate agent in her late 50s who ran the HOA like it was her personal kingdom. Ryan had only dealt with her a few times, usually just getting reminders about keeping his grass trimmed or his trash cans out of sight. Nothing major. He knocked on her door on a Tuesday afternoon, wearing his civilian clothes, trying to keep things casual and friendly. Barbara opened the door with a tight smile. "Ryan, right on time. Come in." Her living room was spotless, decorated with expensive furniture that looked like nobody was allowed to actually sit on it. She gestured to a chair and Ryan sat down, feeling oddly like he was in a principal's office. "So, you're deploying," she said, settling into her chair across from him. "Where to?" "Eastern Europe." "In a TO base?" 14 months. She nodded slowly, her eyes calculating. "And your house?" "That's what I wanted to talk to you about. Everything's set up on automatic payment. Mortgage, HOA fees, all of it. I just wanted to let you know I'll be gone and make sure we're good. What about maintenance? What if something happens?" Ryan had thought about this. "My sister lives about 2 hours away. I'm giving her a key. If there's any emergency, she can handle it. And I'll have email access most of the time so you can reach me if needed." Barbara leaned back, tapping her perfectly manicured nails on the armrest. "You know, the HOA has provisions about abandoned properties." Something in her tone made Ryan's stomach tighten. "It's not abandoned. I'm military. I'm deployed. There's a big difference. Of course. She waved her hand dismissively. "I'm just saying we have rules about properties that aren't occupied. For insurance purposes and property values, my payments will never be late. The house will be maintained. My sister will check on it regularly." "I'm sure everything will be fine," Barbara said, but her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Just make sure those payments go through. We've had issues before with deployed service members forgetting about their obligations." Ryan felt his jaw clench but kept his voice steady. "I won't forget. This is my home." He left her house feeling uneasy, though he couldn't quite pinpoint why. Something about the way she'd looked at his house information, the way she'd mentioned abandoned properties. But he pushed the feeling aside. He had too much else to worry about. The next 2 weeks blurred together. Saying goodbye to friends, making sure his will was updated, packing his gear. His younger sister Lisa promised she'd check on the house at least once a month. She took photos of every room, just in case anything happened while he was gone. Then he was on a plane, watching North Carolina disappear below him, heading toward a base he'd never seen in a country he'd barely heard of. The first 2 months overseas were exactly what he expected. Long hours, hard work, decent people to work with. He'd video chat with Lisa every couple of weeks, and she'd show him everything was fine at home. The grass was being mowed by the lawn service he'd hired. The mail was being collected. Everything was running like clockwork. Then, in month 3, Lisa sent him a text that made his blood run cold. "Ryan, call me when you can. Something weird is going on with your house." He called immediately, despite the time difference making it 3 in the morning for her. "What's wrong?" Lisa sounded worried. "I drove by yesterday, and there were cars in your driveway I didn't recognize." "And lights on inside?" "I thought maybe you'd asked a friend to house sit or something." No, nobody should be there. That's what I thought. So I went back this morning and knocked. Ryan, there's a family living in your house. The words didn't make sense. What do you mean, a family? A couple with 2 kids? They answered the door like they owned the place. When I told them it was your house, they got really defensive. Said they had a lease agreement. I asked to see it, and Ryan, it looked official. Signed by Barbara Westfield. He felt like he'd been punched in the gut. That's impossible. I took pictures of the lease. I'm sending them now. It says the property was abandoned and the HOA has the right to manage it. They're paying $2,400 a month in rent. Ryan stared at the wall of his barracks, trying to process what he was hearing. $2,400. His HOA fees were only $890. Someone was making serious money off his house. The locks, he said quietly. Did they change my locks? Yeah, I tried my key. Doesn't work. He closed his eyes, feeling a rage building inside him that he had to keep controlled. He was thousands of miles away, helpless, while someone was literally stealing his home out from under him. I'm calling Barbara right now, he said. Ryan, it's 3 in the morning there. Maybe wait until... I don't care what time it is. He hung up and immediately dialed Barbara's number. It rang 6 times before she answered, her voice groggy and annoyed. Hello? Barbara, it's Ryan Torres. What the hell is going on with my house? A pause. Then her voice came back sharper, more awake. Ryan, I assume Lisa called you. You're damn right she did. Why are there people living in my house? Your property was showing signs of abandonment. Under HOA Covenant Section 12.7, we have the authority to... I'm deployed. I'm active duty military. You knew exactly where I was. The property wasn't being occupied. We have a responsibility to the neighborhood to ensure properties are maintained, and I paid every single fee on time. I had maintenance arranged. You had no right to touch my house. Barbara's voice turned cold. I suggest you review your HOA agreement, particularly the abandonment clauses. Everything we did was legal. If you have an issue, you're welcome to pursue legal action when you return. Have a good evening. She hung up. Ryan sat there in the darkness of his barracks, phone still pressed to his ear, listening to dead air. His house, the first real home he'd ever owned, had been stolen from him. And he was trapped on the other side of the world with no way to fix it. He pulled up his email and started typing to the military legal assistance office on base. He didn't know if they could help, but he had to do something. Anything. In the bed across from him, his buddy Deshaun stirred. You okay, man? You're breathing like you just ran a mile. Ryan looked over at him, and something in his expression must have said it all. What happened? Deshaun asked, sitting up. And Ryan told him everything. The military legal assistance attorney looked tired. Captain Rodriguez had probably heard 1,000 similar stories, but he listened carefully as Ryan explained everything over video call. Behind the attorney, Ryan could see a wall covered in certificates and a small American flag. Okay, let me get this straight, Rodriguez said, making notes. You're current on all payments? You informed the HO of your deployment. You had maintenance arranged. And they declared your property abandoned anyway? That's exactly what happened. Rodriguez shook his head. They screwed up big time. You're protected under the Service Members Civil Relief Act. What they did isn't just wrong, it's illegal. I'm sending them a cease and desist letter today. Ryan felt a small surge of hope. So they'll have to give it back? Eventually, yes. But Ryan, I need to be honest with you. This isn't going to be fast. These things take time. How much time? Could be 6 months. Could be a year. Depends on how hard they fight it. Ryan felt that hope drain away just as quickly as it had come. I'll still be deployed in 6 months. I know. And that's part of what makes this so difficult. You can't be there in person. We'll do everything we can from here, but legal processes move slowly. The cease and desist letter went out the next day. Barbara's response came back through an attorney within a week. Ryan read it 3 times. Getting angrier with each pass, the Slayer argued that Ryan had abandoned his property by not physically occupying it. They claimed the lease agreement was valid and that they were acting within their authority to manage neglected properties. They even had the nerve to say they were protecting neighborhood property values. What really made Ryan sick was the part about the tenants. The family living in his house, the Caldwell family, had signed what they thought was a legitimate lease. They'd paid first month, last month, and a security deposit. Almost $10,000 total. And they refused to leave without a proper eviction process because they were terrified of losing all that money. Ryan didn't blame them. They were victims too. But it didn't change the fact that they were living in his house, sleeping in his bedroom, using his kitchen. It made him feel violated in a way he couldn't quite explain. The system is designed to be slow, Rodriguez explained during their next call. It protects people from being railroaded. But in your case, that same protection is working against you. So what do? We file a lawsuit. We push hard on the CRA violations. We document everything. And we wait. Waiting. Ryan had never been good at waiting. He filed the lawsuit from a laptop in a military recreation room, signing documents electronically while his buddies played video games behind him. It felt surreal. He was suing someone from 6,000 miles away over a house he couldn't even see. The legal bills started adding up. The military attorney could handle some of it, but he needed a civilian lawyer too, someone who specialized in HOA disputes. That was $300 an hour. Ryan watched his savings account shrink with every email exchange, every motion filed, every response drafted. Meanwhile, Barbara seemed to be having the time of her life. The OA held a meeting where they voted to use HOA funds to fight the lawsuit. She argued that they needed to set a precedent about abandoned properties. The vote passed 7-4. Ryan got the meeting minutes emailed to him, and reading them made him want to punch a wall. Lisa went to that meeting. She called him afterward, furious. "Ryan, she stood up there and made you sound like some deadbeat who just disappeared. She didn't mention deployment once. She made it sound like you just took off and left the property to rot. What did the other homeowners say?" Most of them seemed to believe her. A few people pushed back, asked questions about military protections, but Barbara shut them down. Said her lawyer, assured her everything was legal. It's not legal. That's the whole point. I know that. You know that. But she's convincing, Ryan. She's got this way of talking that makes people trust her. Ryan started digging into Barbara's background. It wasn't hard to find information. She'd been in real estate for 30 years before retiring. She'd served on the HOA board for 5 years and been president for 3. And according to some old neighborhood forum posts he found, she had a reputation for being ruthless about rule enforcement. One post from 2 years ago caught his attention. A homeowner complained that Barbara had fined them $800 for having their trash cans visible from the street for more than 12 hours. Another post mentioned her trying to force someone to repaint their house because the color was not in compliance with community standards, but nothing about rental schemes. Nothing about stealing people's houses. Ryan started looking at the HOA's financial records. As a homeowner, he had a right to see them, but getting access from overseas was nearly impossible. He had to authorize Lisa to request them on his behalf. When they finally arrived, it took him 3 days to go through all the spreadsheets. That's when he found it. There was a separate account. Not the main HOA account, but a secondary one labeled Property Management Services. It had been opened 8 months ago, right around the time Ryan deployed. And the deposits didn't match up with any HOA fees. $2,400. Every month. For the last 7 months, that was $16,800. Money that should have been going to Ryan, or at least to the HOA's general fund. But it was sitting in an account that only Barbara had access to. Ryan forwarded the records to Rodriguez immediately. "This is good," the attorney said. "This is really good. It shows intent. It shows she wasn't just making a mistake, she was actively profiting from this. Can we use it?" "Absolutely. I'm amending the lawsuit right now." But even with the new evidence, things moved at a crawl. The court system was backed up. Motions took weeks to get responses. Every time Ryan thought they were making progress, something else would delay things. His deployment was half over now. 7 months down, 7 to go. And his house still had strangers living in it. The stress was getting to him. He'd wake up at night thinking about it, running through scenarios in his head. During training exercises, he'd find his mind wandering, imagining confronting Barbara face to face. His squad leader noticed and pulled him aside. "Torres, you're not focused." "What's going on?" Ryan explained the situation. Word spread through his platoon quickly after that. These were guys he'd been deployed with for months, people who'd become like family. They ate together, worked together, trusted each other with their lives, and they were pissed on his behalf. "That's messed up," said Deshaun, his closest friend in the unit. "Like, seriously messed up." "The legal system will handle it," Ryan said, not quite believing his own words. "When?" "After you're back? After she's stolen how much more money? What else can I do? I'm stuck here." Deshaun looked at him for a long moment. "Maybe not forever." That conversation stuck with Ryan. He tried to push it out of his mind and focus on work, but it kept coming back. The idea that maybe, just maybe, there was another way to handle this. His platoon started talking about it more openly. During downtime, over meals, late at night when they couldn't sleep? What would they do if they were back home? How would they handle someone stealing from one of their own? Specialist Kim spoke up one night. Her father was a real estate attorney in California. "I could have my dad look at this. Pro bono. Just to see if there's something we're missing." Ryan sent her all the documents. 3 days later, her father video called the entire group. "What this HOA president did is blatant fraud," he said, his face serious on the screen. "The SCRA protections are crystal clear." She knew he was deployed. She knew the payments were current. She rented out his property and pocketed the money. This isn't a gray area. This is theft. So why is it taking so long to fix? Someone asked. Because the legal system is designed to be slow. It's designed to be fair to both sides, even when one side is clearly wrong. By the time this goes to trial, Ryan might be back stateside anyway. "That's insane," Deshaun said. "It's frustrating," Kim's father agreed. "But it's the system we have." After the call ended, the platoon sat in silence for a while. Ryan could see the wheels turning in everyone's heads. "You know," said Kowalski, who'd been a cop before joining the army, "legally speaking, it's your house. You have every right to enter your own property." "The locks are changed," Ryan pointed out. "Locksmiths exist." "The tenants are living there. They're living there illegally. They're squatting in stolen property, even if they don't know it." Ryan shook his head. "I can't just show up and throw people out. That's not how this works." "No," Deshaun said slowly. "But what if we did it the right way? What if we had lawyers there, police there, made it all official? What if we just helped you reclaim what's already yours?" "You're talking about 24 people in uniform showing up at my house." "I'm talking about 24 people who have your back showing up to make sure justice actually happens." Ryan looked around at his platoon. These people had been through hell with him. They'd trained together, bled together, trusted each other with their lives, and now they were offering to risk their careers to help him. "We've got 4 months left on this deployment," Ryan said quietly. "If we're going to do something, we need to plan it right." Deshaun grinned. "Good thing we're trained in planning operations." And just like that, everything changed. Planning a military operation was something Ryan's platoon knew how to do. Planning what they started calling Operation Homefront was different, though. This wasn't about tactics or combat. This was about threading a very thin legal needle while making sure nobody got hurt and nobody got arrested. They started meeting during off hours, huddled around laptops in the rec room, speaking quietly so nobody outside the platoon would overhear. 24 soldiers, all bringing different skills to the table. "First priority," Ryan said during their initial planning session, "is doing this legally. I'm not asking anyone to break the law or risk their career." "Agreed," said Torres, who'd been a paralegal before enlisting. "Everything has to be by the book. You own the house." You have documentation. You have legal right to access your own property. The tenants are the issue, Kowalski pointed out. They're innocent people who got scammed. We can't just throw them out on the street. Ryan had been thinking about this for days. What if we help them? What if we make sure they're taken care of? How? They paid almost $10,000 to the HOA, right? First month, last month, deposit? What if we reimburse them? What if we help them find a new place? Deshaun whistled low. That's a lot of money. I'll cover it, Ryan said. No, you won't, Kim spoke up. We all will. We pool money. We're a team, right? Around the room, heads nodded. Ryan felt something tight in his chest loosen slightly. These people were really going to do this with him. They started breaking down the operation into components. Kim's father agreed to be there in person as legal representation. They'd need a locksmith who could change the locks quickly and professionally. They'd need to notify local police so nobody thought they were witnessing a home invasion. They'd need documentation, lots of it, proving Ryan's ownership and Barbara's fraud. We should contact media too, suggested Patterson, who'd worked in public affairs before deployment. Local news. Make sure there's a record of what's happening. Won't that cause problems? Ryan asked. It'll cause problems for Barbara, not for us. Public pressure works. And it protects us too. Everything's documented, everything's transparent. No way for anyone to claim we did something shady. The plan started taking shape. They'd return from deployment on a Saturday. They'd have Sunday to rest and prepare. Monday morning, 800 hours, they'd roll up to Ryan's house in formation. Full uniforms. Everything professional and military sharp. But first, they had to deal with the Caldwell family. Ryan drafted an email, rewrote it a dozen times, and finally sent it off. He explained who he was, what had happened, and that he needed his house back. He offered them $8,000 to cover what they'd paid to the HOA, plus another $2,000 for moving expenses. He gave them 3 weeks' notice. The response came back 2 days later. It was from Mrs. Caldwell, and Ryan's hands shook as he read it. Mr. Torres, we had no idea any of this was happening. When we signed the lease with Mrs. Westfield, everything seemed legitimate. She showed us HOA documents, told us the owner had abandoned the property. We've been living here for 7 months, and our kids have made friends in the neighborhood. This is devastating news. But we understand you're the victim here, not us. We accept your offer and we're grateful for your understanding. We're sorry this happened to you. Ryan read that email 3 times. These were good people. They'd been lied to, manipulated, used as pawns in Barbara's scheme, and now their lives were being appended to. The platoon pooled their money. Everyone contributed what they could. Some guys put in $100, some put in $500. Within a week, they had the full $10,000. Ryan added another $3,000 from his own savings for good measure. Kowalski's civilian employer, a property management company, helped find the Caldwells a new rental. It was actually nicer than Ryan's place, bigger yard, better school district. The company even waived the normal application fees. Consider it our thank you for your service, the property manager told Kowalski. What happened to your buddy is disgraceful. Kim's father was reviewing every aspect of the plan, making sure they weren't crossing any legal lines. He had conference calls with the platoon, explaining exactly what they could and couldn't do. Ryan has the absolute right to access his own home, he explained. The lease Barbara signed is fraudulent and void. The tenants are technically trespassing, even though they don't know it. But you cannot use force. You cannot threaten anyone. You can be present, you can be imposing by sheer numbers, but everything must be done through proper legal channels. What about Barbara? Deshaun asked. What if she shows up and starts making threats? Let her. Everything will be documented. Every threat she makes, every false claim, it all builds the case against her. She's committed multiple crimes here. Fraud, theft, violation of federal military protection laws. She's facing serious consequences. The local police department was harder to convince. Ryan called from overseas and got transferred 3 times before reaching a sergeant who actually listened. Let me get this straight, the sergeant said. You're a deployed service member, your HOA president rented out your house illegally, and now you want to bring 24 soldiers to reclaim it. Yes, sir. With legal representation present, with proper documentation, and with advance notice to your department. I'm not looking to cause trouble. I'm looking to get my house back. There was a long pause. Send me everything. Documentation, lease agreements, proof of the fraud, contact info for your attorney. Let me review it. Ryan sent it all over. 3 days later, the sergeant called back. Mr. Torres, what happened to you is completely unacceptable. I'll have officers on site to make sure everything stays peaceful. But I want your word that this stays civil. You have it, sir. We just want to make sure everything's done right. The news station was easier. Patterson contacted them with a simple pitch. Local service member gets his home stolen while deployed overseas. Military family helps him take it back. They agreed to send a crew immediately. With 3 weeks left in the deployment, Operation Homefront was fully planned. Every contingency covered, every role assigned. They even had a moving truck lined up to help the Caldwells relocate their belongings, but Ryan couldn't shake the nervous energy. This was really happening. In less than a month, he'd be back home, standing in front of his house with his entire platoon, facing down the woman who'd stolen from him. You're overthinking it, Deshawn said one night. Finding Ryan awake at 2 a.m, staring at his laptop. What if something goes wrong? Then we adapt. That's what we do. But nothing's going to go wrong, man. We've planned this better than half our actual missions. This isn't a mission, though. This is people's lives. The Caldwells, they're kids. What if we're making it worse for them? You're giving them $13,000 and a better house. You're treating them with more respect and kindness than they've seen from anyone else in this situation, including Barbara, who lied to their faces. Ryan knew he was right, but the anxiety wouldn't leave. He'd been wronged badly, but making it right felt impossibly complicated. 2 weeks before they were scheduled to return home, Ryan got an email from his civilian attorney. Barbara's lawyer had filed a motion to dismiss the lawsuit. They were arguing that Ryan had unclean hands because he'd harassed their clients by contacting the tenants directly. Rodriguez responded within hours. Ryan's military attorney tearing apart the argument piece by piece. But it was another delay, another complication. She's scared, Kim's father explained during a video call. She knows you're coming back soon. She knows her time is running out. She's throwing everything at the wall hoping something sticks. Will it work? No, but it'll slow things down, which is probably her goal. She's hoping you'll give up, or that she can drag it out long enough to keep profiting from your house. That made Ryan's decision easier. The legal system was too slow, too easily manipulated, too willing to give benefit of the doubt to someone who deserved none. Operation Homefront was the right move. The final week of deployment dragged by. Every day felt like 3. Ryan triple-checked every document, every contact number, every detail of the plan. The platoon was ready. Everything was in place. They landed at the base on a Saturday afternoon. Ryan's feet touched American soil for the first time in 14 months, and all he could think about was his house. His stolen house. His home. Sunday was a blur of unpacking, reunions with families, and final preparations. Ryan barely slept. He kept going over the plan in his head, imagining every possible way it could go wrong. Monday morning arrived cold and clear. Ryan put on his uniform with hands that only shook slightly. He looked at himself in the mirror. Staff Sergeant Ryan Torres, combat engineer, homeowner, someone who'd served his country faithfully and been robbed for his trouble, but not for much longer. His phone buzzed. A text from Deshawn? Everyone's ready. See you at 07:30. Ryan grabbed his folder of documents, thick with bank statements, deployment orders, emails, everything he'd need to prove his case. He walked out to his rental car and started driving toward his house, toward home. The platoon was waiting 2 blocks away, exactly as planned. 3 military vehicles, 24 soldiers in full uniform. Kim's father stood next to his car, briefcase in hand. A locksmith's van was parked behind them. And further back, Ryan could see the news crew setting up their camera. Ryan pulled up and got out. His platoon stood at attention, then relaxed as he approached. "You ready for this?" Deshaun asked. Ryan looked at the faces around him. People who'd fought beside him. People who believed in him enough to put their own reputations on the line. "Yeah," he said. "I'm ready. Then let's go get your house back." The vehicle started moving, a convoy rolling through the quiet suburban streets toward Ryan's home. Toward Justice, the convoy turned onto Ryan's Street at exactly 0800 hours. 3 military vehicles rolling in formation, followed by the locksmith's van and Kim's father's sedan. The news van brought up the rear. It was impossible to miss. It was designed to be impossible to miss. Neighbors started coming out of their houses immediately. Some held coffee mugs, others had phones already recording. Ryan could hear the murmur of voices, the confusion and curiosity. This was a quiet suburban street. Things like this didn't happen here. The vehicles stopped in front of Ryan's house. His house. The one he'd bought with his VA loan. The one he'd left secure and locked when he deployed. The one that had been stolen from him. It looked the same from the outside. Same white siding, same black shutters, same small front porch. But there were different cars in the driveway. Different curtains in the windows. Evidence of someone else's life being lived in his home. The platoon exited the vehicles in formation. 24 soldiers in Army Combat U. Knife forms, boots hitting pavement in near unison. They formed up in the front yard, standing at parade rest. Silent, professional, imposing, Ryan walked to the front door, Kim's father beside him. His hands were surprisingly steady now. All the nervousness from the past few weeks had crystallized into pure focus. He knocked. The door opened, and Mr. Caldwell stood there, his face pale. Behind him, Ryan could see boxes stacked in the hallway. They'd already started packing. "Mr. Torres," Caldwell said quietly. "Mr. Caldwell, I appreciate you working with us on this. We didn't know. I swear to you, we didn't know any of this was happening." "I believe you, and I'm sorry you got caught up in it." Mrs. Caldwell appeared behind her husband, 2 kids peeking around her legs. She looked exhausted, stressed. Ryan felt a pang of guilt, even though he knew this wasn't his fault. "The moving truck is here," Ryan said. "We've got people to help load everything. Your new place is ready. Keys are waiting." "You didn't have to do all this," Mrs. Caldwell said, her voice cracking slightly. "Yeah, I did. This isn't your fault. You shouldn't be punished for someone else's crime." Kim's father stepped forward, handing them an envelope. "This is a cashier's check for $13,000. It covers everything you paid to the HOA, plus moving expenses and a little extra. There's also a letter documenting everything that happened, in case you want to pursue legal action against Mrs. Westfield yourselves." Mr. Caldwell took the envelope with shaking hands. "I don't know what to say." "You don't have to say anything," Ryan told him. "Just let us help you move." The next hour was organized chaos. Half the platoon helped the Caldwells load their belongings into the moving truck. The other half maintained a perimeter, professional and silent. The news crew filmed everything. More neighbors gathered, watching, whispering. Ryan walked through his house for the first time in 14 months. Everything was different. Different furniture, different pictures on the walls, different smells in the kitchen. The Caldwells had made it their home, and now he was forcing them to leave. It felt wrong. Even though it was right. In his bedroom, there were toys scattered on the floor. A kid's bedroom. Someone had been sleeping in his room, playing with their toys, living their life. He felt like an intruder in his own home. "You okay?" Deshaun asked, appearing in the doorway. "Yeah, no, I don't know. This is weird. It's your house, man. You're not doing anything wrong. Tell that to those kids downstairs. Those kids' parents got scammed by a criminal? That's on Barbara, not on you. You're handling this better than most people would." The Caldwells' belongings were loaded within an hour. Ryan walked them to the moving truck, the kids clutching their parents' hands, looking scared and confused. "I'm sorry," Ryan said again. "I really am." Mrs. Caldwell surprised him by pulling him into a brief hug. "You're a good person." Thank you for treating us like human beings. That woman, Barbara, she never cared about us at all. We were just money to her. Ryan watched them drive away, the moving truck following behind. Part of him felt relieved. Part of him felt sick. Mostly he felt angry that any of this had been necessary at all. The locksmith was already at work, drilling out the locks Barbara had installed and replacing them with new ones. Kim's father stood on the porch, organizing documents. The police had arrived, 2 officers standing by their patrol car, watching everything carefully but not interfering. That's when Barbara's car screeched to a stop at the curb. She got out like a storm, her face red with rage, pointing at the platoon with a shaking finger. 2 other people emerged from her car, both older, both looking equally furious. Other HOA board members, Ryan assumed. What the hell do you think you're doing? Barbara shrieked, storming across the lawn. This is illegal. This is trespassing. I'm calling my lawyer right now. Ryan stepped forward, but Kim's father put a hand on his arm. Let me handle this. He walked down to meet Barbara, calm and professional. Mrs. Westfield, I'm Jonathan Kim, attorney representing Staff Sergeant Torres. This is not trespassing. This is a lawful property owner reclaiming his own home. He abandoned this property. We have legal right to— You have no legal right whatsoever, Kim's father cut her off, his voice sharp. My client was deployed on active military duty. He maintained all payments. He arranged for property maintenance. He informed you of his deployment. Under the Service Members Civil Relief Act, what you did constitutes multiple federal crimes. Barbara's face went from red to purple. I have documentation. I have HOA authority. The lease agreement you forged is void and illegal. You rented out property you had no right to rent. You collected money that wasn't yours. And you violated federal law protecting deployed service members. One of the police officers stepped forward. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to calm down. Calm down? They're stealing this property. Look at them. She gestured wildly at the platoon. This is intimidation. This is military force being used against civilians. No, ma'am, the officer said firmly. This is a property owner who happens to be military, reclaiming his legal property with appropriate legal representation and law enforcement present. If anyone committed crimes here, it's you. The news camera was capturing everything. Barbara noticed it for the first time, and her expression changed. The rage flickered, replaced briefly by something that looked like fear. You can't prove any of this, she said, but her voice had lost some of its certainty. Kim's father opened his briefcase. Actually, we can. We have bank records showing you deposited rental income into a separate account. We have emails where you researched property abandonment laws weeks before Mr. Torres deployed. We have testimony from the tenants that you specifically told them the owner had abandoned the property. We have documentation of every payment Mr. Torres made on time. Would you like me to continue? Barbara's mouth opened and closed. The 2 board members with her were backing away slowly, clearly wanting no part of whatever was about to happen. You're going to regret this, Barbara hissed. I'll sue you for harassment, for emotional distress, for defamation. Please do, Kim's father said calmly. Discovery in that lawsuit will be very interesting. We'll subpoena all HOA records, all your personal financial records, all your communications. I'm sure that will go very well for you. Barbara looked around, seeming to realize for the first time how many people were watching. Neighbors lined the street. The news camera was rolling. Police were present. Her fellow board members were literally walking away from her. This isn't over, she said. But it sounded hollow. Actually, Mrs. Westfield. It is. Mr. Torres is filing criminal complaints this afternoon. Fraud, theft, violation of the SCRA. The district attorney's office is very interested in your case. I suggest you get a good lawyer. Barbara opened her mouth to respond, then seemed to think better of it. She turned and stormed back to her car, got in, and drove away with her tires squealing. The street was silent for a moment. Then one of Ryan's neighbors started clapping. Then another. Then more. Ryan felt his face heat up with embarrassment, but also with something else, Relief? Vindication? The locksmith finished installing the new locks and handed Ryan a set of keys. "All yours, sir." Ryan held the keys in his hand, feeling their weight. His house. His home. Finally back where it belonged. "Let's get this place cleaned up," Deshaun said. "Make it yours again." The platoon spent the rest of the day helping Ryan clean. They scrubbed floors, wiped down walls, hauled out trash. Some guys went to buy cleaning supplies. Others helped move in the furniture Ryan had put in storage before deploying. Neighbors stopped by throughout the day. Some brought food. Some just wanted to say they were sorry for what happened. One older man, Mr. Peterson from 3 houses down, pulled Ryan aside. "I voted against helping Barbara fight your lawsuit," he said. "I didn't believe her story. I'm sorry I didn't do more." "It's okay," Ryan said, even though part of him wondered if it really was. If more people had questioned Barbara, would any of this have happened? By evening, the house was starting to look like his again. His furniture, his pictures, his life coming back into focus. The platoon gathered in his living room, exhausted but satisfied. "We did good today," Ryan said quietly. "Thank you. All of you. I don't know how to repay this." "You don't repay family?" Deshaun said. "You just have their back when they need it, like you've had ours." Kim's father appeared in the doorway. "Ryan, I just got off the phone with the district attorney. They're moving forward with charges against Barbara. Fraud, theft, SCRA violations. She's looking at serious time if convicted." "Good," Ryan said and meant it. "We're also filing a civil suit for the stolen rental income, legal fees, emotional distress, and punitive damages. I think we can get you a substantial settlement." Ryan nodded. It wasn't about the money, though the money would help. It was about accountability. It was about making sure Barbara couldn't do this to anyone else. As the sun set, the platoon started heading out. Each person stopped to shake Ryan's hand or pull him into a hug. By the time the last vehicle pulled away, Ryan was standing alone in his living room. His house. His home. He sat down on his couch and just breathed. For the first time in 14 months, he was home. Really home. Not in a barracks, not in temporary housing, not displaced and stolen from. Home. His phone buzzed. A text from Deshaun. "Sleep well, brother. You earned it." Ryan smiled and replied, "Thanks for everything." He walked through his house, turning off lights, checking locks, doing all the normal things a person does in their own home. It felt surreal. It felt right. When he finally lay down in his bed, in his room, in his house. Ryan slept better than he had in over a year. The video went viral overnight. Ryan woke up Tuesday morning to hundreds of notifications on his phone. The local news station had posted the story online, and it had exploded across social media. 24 soldiers in formation, reclaiming a stolen home from a corrupt HOA president. People were calling it everything from justice porn to vigilante action to wholesome military brotherhood. By Wednesday, national news networks were picking it up. By Thursday, Ryan was getting interview requests from morning shows and podcasts. His phone wouldn't stop ringing. The response was overwhelmingly positive. Veterans groups shared the story. Military family support pages posted about it. Even some HOA reform advocates were using it as an example of why HOA laws needed to change, but not everyone was happy. Barbara's lawyer issued a statement claiming his client was being harassed and threatened. He called the platoon's presence unnecessary military intimidation. He insisted Barbara had acted within her authority as HOA president. The statement fell flat. Within hours, people had dug up Barbara's history. The complaints about excessive fines. The stories of her targeting specific homeowners. A pattern of using her position for personal benefit. Then someone found the bank records. It wasn't technically illegal to access public HOA financial records. And someone with more time and motivation than Ryan had gone through every document available. They'd found the separate account. They'd tracked the deposits. They'd done the math. Barbara had collected $56,400 in rental income over 14 months. She'd deposited all of it into her personal account. She'd reported exactly $0 to the HOA's General Fund. The HO held an emergency meeting on Friday. Ryan didn't attend, but Lisa did, and she called him afterward with an update. It was chaos, she said. People were furious. Barbara tried to defend herself, but nobody was buying it. They voted unanimously to remove her from the board and to cooperate fully with the criminal investigation. How did she react? She threatened to sue everyone in the room. Then she stormed out. 2 other board members resigned right after. I think they knew they were going to be asked questions about how much they knew. The district attorney moved fast. On Monday, exactly 1 week after Operation Homefront, Barbara was arrested at her home. The charges were extensive: fraud, theft, embezzlement, violation of the Service Members Civil Relief Act, falsifying documents. Ryan watched the arrest on the news. Barbara being led out of her house in handcuffs, her face a mask of rage and disbelief. He didn't feel the satisfaction he'd expected. He mostly felt tired. The Caldwell family reached out a few days later. They'd settled into their new place and wanted to thank Ryan. Again, Mrs. Caldwell mentioned they were considering filing their own lawsuit against Barbara for fraud. We trusted her, she said on the phone. She looked us in the eye and lied. Our kids were settled here. We thought we'd found a home, and it was all built on lies. I'm sorry, Ryan said. None of you deserve this. Neither did you, but at least you fought back. You could have just let it go, dealt with it when you got back, accepted some settlement. Instead, you made sure everyone knew what she did. That takes courage. The criminal case moved through the system slowly. Barbara pleaded not guilty initially, but as evidence piled up, her position became harder to maintain. Her lawyer tried to negotiate a plea deal, but the prosecutor wasn't interested in being lenient. The civil lawsuit was a different matter. Kim's father filed a comprehensive complaint. Stolen rental income, legal fees, emotional distress, punitive damages, everything they could possibly claim. Barbara's lawyer tried to get it dismissed, but the judge wasn't having it. The allegations, if true, represent an egregious violation of trust and law, the judge said during the hearing. This case will proceed to discovery. Discovery was where everything fell apart for Barbara. Her lawyers had to turn over every document, every email, every financial record. And what they revealed was damning. She'd been planning this for months before Ryan deployed. She'd researched rental rates in the area. She'd consulted with other HOA presidents about managing vacant properties. She'd even looked into how to check if someone was actually deployed or just claiming to be Dot. It was premeditated. It was calculated. It was indefensible. 5 months after Operation Homefront, Barbara's lawyer called Kim's father with a settlement offer. Barbara would pay Ryan $110,000, $78,000 in actual damages, $32,000 in punitive damages. In exchange, Ryan would agree not to pursue additional civil claims. Ryan sat in Kim's father's office, looking at the settlement agreement, feeling numb. It's a good offer, Kim's father said. Better than we'd likely get at trial, and it's guaranteed money now rather than years from now. What about the criminal case? That proceeds regardless. She's already agreed to plead guilty to reduce charges. 2 years probation, community service, and she can never serve on an HOA board again. Ryan thought about it for a long moment. Will she serve any jail time? Probably not. The prosecutor is recommending probation because she has no prior record and because she's agreeing to pay full restitution. It felt inadequate. Barbara had stolen his home, violated federal law, caused him months of stress and thousands in legal fees. And she'd get probation and have to write a check, but it was over. That was worth something. Okay, Ryan said. I'll take the settlement. The paperwork was signed 2 weeks later. Ryan received a cashier's check for $110,000. He stared at it for a long time, this physical representation of everything he'd been through. He used $20,000 to pay back everyone in the Platoon who'd contributed to helping the Caldwells. He used another $30,000 to pay off his remaining legal fees. The rest went into savings, a cushion against whatever came next. The AO underwent major changes. New board members were elected. New bylaws were written, specifically protecting deployed service members and requiring independent legal review before taking any action against a property. They even named the new protections the Torres protections. Ryan wasn't sure how he felt about having HOA bylaws named after him, but he appreciated the gesture. Barbara moved away 3 months after the settlement. She sold her house, reportedly at a significant loss because everyone in the neighborhood knew who she was and what she'd done. Ryan heard she relocated to another state, trying to start over somewhere nobody knew her name. The Caldwell family thrived in their new place. The kids adjusted to their new school. Mr. Caldwell got a promotion at work. They sent Ryan a Christmas card that year with a photo of the whole family, everyone smiling. "Thank you for your kindness in a difficult situation," the card read. "You turned something horrible into something manageable, and we'll never forget that." Ryan kept the card on his refrigerator. 6 months after Operation Homefront, the platoon gathered at Ryan's house for a barbecue. It was summer now, warm and bright. Ryan had finally finished repainting and redecorating, making the house fully his again. They filled his backyard, these people who'd become family. Soldiers who'd stood beside him when the legal system failed. Friends who'd risked their careers to help him reclaim what was stolen. Deshaun raised his beer. To Ryan, to brotherhood, to justice. Everyone raised their drinks. Hoo-ah! They ate and laughed and told stories. Some of the neighbors joined them. The ones who'd supported Ryan from the beginning. Mr. Peterson brought his famous potato salad. A younger couple from down the street brought their kids to play in the yard. This was what Barbara had tried to take from him. Not just the house, but the life that came with it. The community. The belonging. The simple act of being home. Kim found Ryan standing alone on the porch later, watching everyone enjoy themselves. "You okay?" she asked. "Yeah, just thinking about how weird it is. A year ago I was halfway around the world, thinking I'd lost everything. And now I'm here, surrounded by people I care about, in my own home. It's surreal. You fought for it. You earned it." Ryan shook his head. "I didn't do it alone. That's the whole point. I couldn't have done it alone." "That's what makes it a good story," Kim said. "Not that you fought back, but that people fought with you." The sun was starting to set, casting golden light across the yard. Ryan's yard. His home. His life, reclaimed and rebuilt. Later that night, after everyone had left and the house was quiet, Ryan walked through each room. Everything was exactly where he wanted it. His furniture, his pictures, his memories. The house felt like his again. Finally, he stood in his living room, looking at a framed photo someone had taken during the barbecue. His entire platoon, arms around each other, smiling. Brothers and sisters who'd proven that sometimes when the system fails, all you need is people who refuse to let injustice stand. His phone buzzed. A text from Deshaun? "Same time next year?" Ryan smiled and typed back. "Absolutely." He turned off the lights and headed to bed. Outside, a small American flag flew from his porch, a new addition he'd installed last week. A reminder of what he'd fought for overseas and what he'd fought for at home. The next morning, Ryan woke up early. He made coffee, sat on his porch, and watched the neighborhood come to life. Kids heading to school. Adults leaving for work. Normal life. The kind that's so easy to take for granted until someone tries to take it away. Mr. Peterson walked by with his dog and waved. "Morning, Ryan. Morning, Mr. Peterson. Meeting tonight. You comin'?" Ryan had been elected to the HOA board 3 months ago. The homeowners had insisted. They wanted someone who understood what could go wrong when people abused their power. "I'll be there." "Good, we need people like you making decisions." People like him, veterans, people who'd served. People who understood duty and honor and doing the right thing even when it was hard. Ryan finished his coffee and got ready for work. He'd found a job as a civil engineer with a local construction company. Good pay, good benefits, work that felt meaningful. As he drove away from his house, he glanced in the rearview mirror. His house, standing solid and secure. His home, truly his again. It had been a hell of a fight. It had cost him money and time and stress he'd never get back. But he'd won. Not just the house, but something bigger. He'd proven that corruption could be fought. That injustice could be challenged. That having good people beside you made all the difference, and he'd made sure that what happened to him would never happen to another deployed service member in that neighborhood again, the Taurus protections. His legacy, built from betrayal and reclaimed through brotherhood. Ryan smiled and drove on, heading toward whatever came next. Whatever it was, he knew he wouldn't face it alone. That was the real victory. Not the house, not the money, not even the justice, the knowledge that when things went wrong, he had people who would stand beside him. That was worth more than any house could ever be. Barbara learned that the hard way. She'd thought power and paperwork would protect her. She'd thought a deployed soldier halfway around the world couldn't fight back. She'd been wrong, and Ryan hoped that wherever she was now, she remembered that. Remembered that people like him, people who served, people who understood what really mattered, they didn't give up. They didn't back down. And they never, ever fought alone. His phone rang. Deshaun calling. Hey man, did you see the article? What article? Military Times picked up your story. They're doing a feature on HOA reform and SCRA protections, using what happened to you as the centerpiece. Ryan pulled over to read the article Deshaun sent. There it was, his story being used to help other service members. Recommendations for law changes, suggestions for how to prevent similar situations, something good coming from something terrible. That's amazing, Ryan said. You're making a difference, brother. For a lot of people. After the call ended, Ryan sat in his car for a moment, letting it all sink in. The house was just the beginning. The real victory was making sure nobody else had to go through what he did. He started driving again, toward work, toward his future. The past year had been the hardest of his life, but it had also shown him what he was capable of, what people were capable of when they stood together, and that was a lesson worth learning, no matter the cost.